Yeah, I don't know shit about sound.
Yeah, I've had to learn a lot. So, but hey, man, it's good to meet you.
Good to meet you too. So you say you just woke up?
Yeah, like rolled out of bed like an hour and a half ago. Yeah.
I wish. I was working all day, hence why the greasy pizza is starting to hit.
Oh yeah. What do you do?
I'm a video editor by trade, but this today I was just working on like a lacrosse game that I contract for.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's just standing for like 3 hours, pointing a camera at a field, so it's really not that bad.
That's the biz. You know?
Anything for extra money.
Yeah, you gotta work, you gotta eat. You know, that's that's the name of the game.
But not greasy pizza, please. Never again. And the sad thing is, I won't learn my lesson.
No, you never do.
I know when it comes
Pizza's
to
a way of
food,
life.
no matter how bad it is, if I had one good experience with it, I would just be like, oh no, it was just a one-off last time. Therefore, I'll just keep eating it and just forget like a dog or something because I have no control apparently.
No, yeah, same. Even the worst pizza is better than like some of the worst food I've eaten. So it's, you know,
Right? Because
it's like to each his own.
I don't, because like the pizza didn't even taste bad. It tastes like nothing, honestly. It's why I had like 5 pieces. I'm like, this is nothing, but I'm hungry. So it didn't hit for like a long while after. Holy shit.
Sure.
So your name is pronounced Luis Bermudez?
Yeah, Luis Bermudez,
Got
pretty
it.
much.
I am usually terrible with pronouncing names. Even the most like standard John Smith, I'll somehow get wrong because I don't know how to podcast right.
No, man, you nailed it. It was great.
I gotta say, thank you.
Best way I've heard my name pronounced ever.
I try to respect it, and I gotta thank you for coming on for one.
Oh, thanks for having me, man.
And say congratulations because this is the 7th episode of my podcast, and I read that most podcasts do not last. I think maybe they don't last 7 episodes or over 7 episodes.
So you made it over the hill. You're
I
good.
made it over
You're
the
past
hill.
the 17 club.
It took a while there because there was a big gap in the middle when I was moving, and you know it's hard to keep up a podcast, so you gotta ask people to come on.
Yeah.
And some people understandably are like no, or like just don't answer because I'm asking like voice actors who probably have like 10 other jobs to do.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's days off don't really happen. Even on the weekends, it's like I still have shit that I need to do. But I mean, I'm always happy to connect with people, especially if like you give any semblance of a shit about what I do for a living. That's just a compliment to me, honestly. So I try to make time whenever I can. I'm glad we could put this together. This is awesome.
I appreciate it like always. So of course, yes, this is called Baby Got Booth. Killer name, I know. And I'm here today with voice actor Luis Bermudez, as we established.
Yeah, that's me.
So my first kind of question is not voice acting related. It's more personal related because I stalk my guest Twitters like jealous ex-girlfriends just for research. And I saw you tweet about your gym going on. Is that correct?
Yeah. I've recently started eating a little bit healthier and going to the gym more regularly. The pandemic kind of set back a lot of my fitness goals by a lot. So I'm just trying to kind of regain a semblance of who I am and feel a little bit better in my own body. Yeah,
that's good to hear. I started recently going back to the gym because I was doing good for like 21 and 22. But then I got COVID.
Yeah, man, and that fucking I also got COVID like in I think it was like Christmas of 2021, and it's like I remember I was trying to play Cyberpunk 2077 or 2027 or whatever it is, and like couldn't even hold my controller. I was so exhausted.
Dude, me too.
Like,
literally the same game that had with COVID. I couldn't play it because I got so fucking dizzy playing it.
It's awful, man. It's no one told me how bad the what is it? The not the malaise, but the fatigue.
Yeah.
It's like your body's made of lead. It's awful. I'm glad you recovered though.
Oh my god, it was a process because I got Thanksgiving last year. I know who gave it to me. I'll hate him for life. And because at first I just saw it was like really bad allergies because I've had terrible allergies before. In terms of like chests and like coughing and everything, but then it took longer than usual to recover. I'm like, what's going on? So I took a COVID test, and that shit was positive within the first, I swear to God, 5 seconds.
Yeah, man.
I had it bad. And then I had the brain fog, of course, which is like kind of, I think is the worst aspect of it because of breathing and the lead. I'm pretty sure I had a 105-degree fever. That's what it felt like. And the brain fog. So I go to the doctors and and it was busy. So they put me someone on telehealth and she said, oh yeah, you might have brain damage.
Oh my God. That's Jesus, man.
Everyone I tell that to says that. I'm like, okay, so I am not insane for being like fearing for my life, and two, can they just say that?
Yeah, man. Like I don't know. There's people who still take it lightly to this day, and like me, I got very lucky. And I think this was very early on before we even knew about like, depending on the viral load you get, that's the more severe it will be. The worst I had to deal with, like, I found out that I was sick because I just got chills out of nowhere. I was hot, I was cold, I couldn't wear enough sweaters, I couldn't be under enough blankets, and I was just shivering. And then the next day, like you said, it was just like getting hit in the face with a bunch of these allergies. And then I took the test. I went and did a PCR at like a community college in Vegas. And next day found out I was positive. And then, of course, the following day I lost my sense of smell and taste, which was sick. Coca-Cola tasted like bananas for a while. That was wild. And then it was just like laying in bed hoping I wasn't going to die for like 2 weeks. And thankfully I got out of it. And, Jesus, man, possible brain damage is a huge side effect that I'd be terrified of. So, I mean, I'm glad that at least for now you seem like you're 100% put together, but
yeah.
Jesus, man.
Yeah, no, it was scary for a little bit just because of the brain fog. I think it was just, one, I have asthma, so it took around a little bit longer. And like the exercise was hard because it's hard to breathe for a while until like I think maybe like a month after I got it. And the brain fog was like at one point, I think it's because I also wasn't sleeping too well either. It was like difficult to read. Like I had to read things twice to actually like really get it.
Yeah, man, that's awful.
So yeah, that was like that was one of the scariest moments of my life.
I mean, yeah, because it's like it takes away. I mean, it arrests your ability to control your own brain. It's almost like you have like a concussion or something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, it's
that's
scary.
what the doctor said. It was like it's kind of like a TBI. Yeah, TBI.
What is that?
Traumatic brain injury. So pretty much, if you played football and got like smashed in the head with something, it can be similar to that. And she said that's like long COVID. Like some people have COVID like symptoms for like years.
Yeah, I know a couple people who are in that boat right now. Yeah, man, it's still with us. Like, mask up wherever you go. Get all your vaccines. Get ones that you don't even need.
I'm never getting that again. Holy crap! I feel so lucky. Feel like I made it out of a fire the first time.
Yeah, man, we're lucky to be here for sure.
So, kind of related to that scary topic, you started your voice acting career, I believe, before the pandemic that I saw. Like, you think like 2017, 2018?
No, actually a little bit later. 2019, like February of 2019, I actually began like training for the first time.
Okay.
I'd always been like a fan and always been kind of on the sidelines. I was listening to Talkin' Tunes with Rob Paulson back when it was on Alpha, which was like Legendary's little like experimental thing where they put a bunch of experimental shows on, and I listened to that podcast for months and months and months and months. I read all the books. I was a big fan of Critical Role even before that. And even long before that, I was always a fan of acting, but just never had an avenue that was available to me. On camera never really spoke to me because I have massive social anxiety as it is, and then when you put me in front of a camera, I just lock up. I can't do anything. So I did stage in high school and stuff, and I loved acting then, and it was cool because I could just pretend that people weren't there. Whereas if you have a camera pointed at you, it's like a giant eyeball floating in the middle of the room.
Yeah.
But then after high school, I did a bunch of different jobs, and I kind of walked away from acting for a bit. And then 2019, I was working security at the Bellagio casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. And this is shortly after 1 October, which is like one of the, I don't know if people who are listening are familiar with it, or if you're familiar with it, Jared, but it's one of the like worst mass shooting events. In the U.S.
Was that the one at a concert?
Yeah, it was during the I believe it's called the Route 91 concert or festival.
Jason Aldean, I think.
I think he was one of the performers. Yeah.
Yeah. I know that. I know that one.
Guy basically sat up at the top of a hotel out here, and just rained down fire onto a bunch of people. That was my first day working at the Bellagio.
Holy shit.
It was also my birthday.
Holy shit.
So it was a cool time. There were multiple times that night where we would run to one side of the room because again, at that time we didn't know
what was going on.
Yeah, we didn't know what was going on, how many shooters there were. There was a bunch of conversation because nobody really knew where the shots were coming from, like about if this was a mass, terrorist event or what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
So there were times that night where we would run to, a side of the building because we heard a disturbance, and we didn't know if we were running towards somebody with an automatic weapon. So after that happened, it kind of shook me to realize, like, you know what, man, if you're not going to chase it now and you're going to keep pushing it off and being like, oh, well, I'll wait till I do this. Well, I'll wait till I do that. Well, I'll wait till I do this. Then you're never going to do it. And that kind of put a fire under my butt, and I decided to reach out to some voiceover people, and I got some coaching done. And very quickly, a lot of the feedback that I got was like, hey, man, you're really good. You should probably get a mic and like official booth set up and start putting your name out there so you can start getting some work. And that's kind of what I did, like latter half of 2019, and from then on, from 2019 through 2020, I just kind of worked part-time for a while.
Oh, well, one, sorry you had to go through all that. I'm glad I lit a fire under you, but there are easier ways to get some reminders of that. But glad you're okay, and sorry about your birthday.
It was an eventful one. I'm more honestly, it was a big day for our city, and I'm more. I was one of the lucky people. I was one of the very, very many lucky people in the city at that time, because there were people, 50 plus victims. You know what I mean? It was a huge blow to our city and a huge blow to our community, and the families of those people are far more affected than I will ever be.
Of course.
It was a rough time for sure.
Really hitting the gauntlet. We got COVID, mass shootings, man.
Yeah.
Great start to really gripping start of a podcast. So you said stuff like Critical Role, and it really first inspired you to start this. Do you have any kind of inspirations that kind of keep you going now, or things you kind of base your decisions or work off of?
Oh man, Critical Role was a big early one on. I think it was because it was like the first time that I'd seen people that were very much so like me doing a thing that I loved, which was D&D. At the time that Critical Role was up, I was running a Pathfinder campaign almost in tandem with Matthew Mercer's Pathfinder campaign when he started.
Okay.
So it was ironic, and it was like this thing that was just kind of like almost like fortuitous, kind of like you just run into something where it's just like, this is so for me, it's insane. But even before that, and the only reason I knew about Critical Role is because of people like Laura Bailey and Matthew Mercer, Liam O'Brien, Travis Willingham, Taliesin Jaffe. Like, these were people that I was a huge fan of already because of, I was a huge gamer. I was a huge cartoon fan as a kid, like the Batman animated series. Kevin Conroy was my hero. Listening to Troy Baker in BioShock Infinite, and then, listening to Nolan North and Assassin's Creed and so on and so forth. I grew up with these people kind of in my ears constantly, and I feel like the first time I ever experienced that, oh wow, video games are different now, was that first Assassin's Creed with Nolan North, where I'm just like, I was listening to him talk, and I was like, man, this guy's good. And it's like, you go back and you like listen to Spyro, and like Spyro is an amazing game, and I love that. It's a huge part of my childhood as well. And it's like this amazing character work, but like, you hear that a lot from that era, and then you go and like listen to 2007. I think it was like 2007, 2005 maybe, when Assassin's Creed first came out, and you listen to like the performances that are in that game, and it's like, this is indiscernible from a film.
Yeah.
Like at a certain point, and that was like kind of a light bulb moment for me to go, oh, there are people who do those voices. That's something that you could feasibly do for a living. And so I looked up Nolan North's IMDb, and like, keep in mind, I'm like, I don't know what, like 15 at this time. And I'm like looking through his IMDb, and I'm like, oh my god, this guy's in everything. He's done soap operas, and he's a voice actor, and oh my god, I didn't know voice actor was a thing you could even do. And so that opened the door for me, and like from then on, it was just like I kept finding names that I liked, like J.B. Blanc and Fred Tatasciore and Sam Riegel and Mary Elizabeth McGlenn and Julie Nathanson, and it was just like these recurring names that I would see over and over again, and everything that I loved, all these video games that I was playing, and all these cartoon shows that I was watching and binging, and animes that I was watching, and it was just like something clicked, and I realized, oh, that'd be really cool to do.
Yeah.
And then watching Critical Role was like that first impetus to be like, oh shit, I do that 5 times a month sometimes. Like I could probably get in front of a mic and do some characters and do some accents and see what I could work out. And I think that was ultimately what kind of impressed a lot of people when I finally did pursuing it. I was a huge fan of acting ever since I was a child. I mean, like The Matrix was the first time I ever was like, I want to be an actor. And watching Keanu Reeves, bend around fake bullets, I was just like, that's the shit. I want to do that for a living. So I'd always just digested in copious amounts whatever I could about acting and about actors. So I was already ahead of the curve in that sense. And then when I started playing D&D and DMing my own campaign for about 5 years, it was like the best free improv class I could ever take. So I was doing, creature sounds that I'd never tried before. I was doing accents I'd never tried before, and modulating my voice in ways I'd never done before. And I discovered I had a knack and ability for it. And so when Critical Role happened, it was just like, okay, well, that's got to. I mean, if there's no other sign from the universe that you should maybe try pursuing this has to be it. And that's just kind of what led me in that direction.
Interesting. Yeah, because I'll say on-screen actors, you rarely can put them together so much with their characters, but with voice actors, it's almost so insidious to where you grow up listening to cartoons and anime, all that, not really even considering who is playing that person because it's not very obvious. You see that character and you hear their voice, but then later. It's my same story too with me. When you grow up and you see these people say on Critical Role, and these people are cool, but they say they're voice actors, what do they voice? And you realize they voice almost all your favorite characters and all your favorite games and all your favorite anime, all your favorite cartoons. And they're likable people, of course, but it's almost like you kind of link them to those characters in a way that makes you even more infatuated with them in a way, especially if it's part of your favorite category. And they're so personable too. I'm not saying no actors no on-screen actors are personable person, but you see them and it's they're into the same things you are. They're geeks and nerds, have the same foibles, especially listen to their interviews and all that. That's kind of why I'm so interested in voice actors, because they're like me. They love acting and sometimes directing and all that, but it's I can connect to them more, and they're so approachable and personable, and I really want to get their stories and everything and why they love the things they do and do the things they do.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like you said, it gets to a point with voice acting where the voice becomes synonymous with your favorite character, and that's a testament to how good most of us are at our job. Not to toot my own horn, throwing most of us in there.
Do it.
But Rob Paulson, man, when I was a kid, Pinky was Pinky. That was it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That voice, that narf, that shit was the character. And that was him. That was a person that existed. That was my friend. You know what I mean? And to find out, no, that's Rob Paulson from California. It's what? What do you mean? Why that person lives inside of him? And they're like, no. That's just a guy doing a voice. And it's okay, cool. It's insane. And that's something you don't often get with on-screen work. And every now and again, I feel like you do get that stuff from a Marlon Brando, where it's just no, that's the Godfather.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Or you get a Mark Hamill, and it's just, or not a Mark Hamill. Well, Mark Hamill, yeah.
It's a perfect example of
you get a
voice acting equivalent. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Or you get I'm blanking on his name. Why am I blanking on his name? He's one of my favorites. Dark Knight Joker.
Oh, Heath Ledger.
Heath Ledger, thank you. My God, I'm gonna look like an asshole. But Heath Ledger,
there are a lot of jokers. There are a lot of jokers.
Yeah, but he embodied that role in such a way that I feel like is something that voice actors are called upon to do often.
And it made it so unique as well.
Exactly, and made it completely his own. And that's an example of an on-camera actor just becoming the character. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't. That's not to say that it doesn't happen often, but when it does happen on screen, it's so special. And it's just a testament to how good voice actors are, because I always tell people, like, especially like newer voice actors who are just like, man, I'm stuck in the like extras and bits parts, and like I can't get like a speaking role or a named role to save my life. And I'm just like, yo, that's fantastic. Like, you have no idea how good that is, because all that tells me is that your ability to suspend an audience's disbelief is that good.
Yeah.
Like, if you are able to sound like 30 people in the background, that's a way better position than only being able to sound like the guy who leads the show.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because you'll work up to the point where you can be that lead. But if the guy who plays the lead can't modulate his voice and sound like 10 different people in a scene, then he's gonna have one job, and then he's gonna go to the next job. You know what I mean? If you're like a Billy West, and you can play 6 guys in the same scene talking to each other, you're gonna work forever. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where it's amazing to me what we do, because we have to walk into a booth and almost strip our own skin off to put on the skin of another character or of another being, and suspend that disbelief as long as possible, so that whoever's listening on the other side, unless they're a diehard fan of voice actors, right, and they go, oh, that's Luis Bermudez, they're thinking nothing of it. They're just going, oh, that guy's talking, and now this guy's talking. Okay, cool. And now we're following the next character. And that's the way it's supposed to be when you're watching or playing a video game or whatever it might be. So it's a huge compliment to me when people are just like, that was you in that scene? I was just like, yeah, I'm playing my father and my son. So yeah, thank you for the compliment.
I remember Troy Baker saying on a podcast that he's on, because I think they're riffing on him about being in like a lot of stuff. Because Troy Baker is in a lot of stuff, and sometimes,
he's the guy.
Yeah, and sometimes you can like obviously tell it's him sometimes, but he's like, his dream is to like take a role in a project and not be credited and see if anyone knows it's him, because he truly wants to disappear in that role. He wants to really let his acting chops flourish in a way where he is unrecognizable. And it got me thinking about, because a lot of people talk about like range in voice, especially in voice acting, where you can do a lot of voices or a lot of creatures or a lot of different things. But sometimes it's not about that, because there are some voice actors who almost use the same voice in everything they're in.
Nolan North,
yeah, Nolan North. Sometimes Tom Kenny, you can hear it. Matt Mercer, if they just want his like regular voice, and Troy Baker. But it's also about their ability to sell the character, because it's not just about how they sound.
Totally. And I mean, it's funny that like it's funny for me to hear, because I'm a huge fan of Troy. I love that man to death. The Last of Us is one of my favorite video games of all time. I mentioned BioShock Infinite. I mean, Troy Baker is one of those people that I heard alongside Nolan North where I was just like, holy shit, we can do that in video games? And he's just amazing. He's like, there's no other word for it. He is amazing. And there's a reason why he works so much. It's not just because he has that voice. It's because he's a phenomenal actor, and when he goes in 100% for everything that he does. It's just ironic to hear him say, I wish I could be unrecognizable, when like most of the people that I'm working with are like dying for any crumb of recognition whatsoever. You know what I mean?
Well, to be fair, he has a lot of work under his belt, so I guess that's like the final step of his career is just not be credited at all.
Yeah, totally. And it just goes to show, like, man, your goalposts are always shifting. Like, now there are people in my rung, myself included, who are like, oh, I feel so insignificant in the vast sea of talent that's out there. And there's people who are like at the top of the mountain, like, man, I wish I could just like dive into the waters and nobody see me for a while. Like, and that just goes to show, like, part of the human condition is just to kind of be appreciated for what we do. And I hope that at some point we can all kind of get to that space where we feel like, you know what, we're doing cool stuff and people like it, and that's enough. you know. But it is. I mean, it's the best. It's the best job in the world. Like, I get to be any number of characters. I mean, the range of characters I've played just in this first 2 years of my career, like, are insane to me. I'm a big green monster man in Street Fighter, and then I'm a little boy in Beyblade. Like, that's nuts. Like,
Yeah.
I'm stoked about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, your IMDb
So
is
it's just
stacked
really cool.
from what I saw.
Oh,
It's hard to pick
thank you.
anything specific. I'm like, holy shit! It's just like the past like 4 years, 5 years, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Professionally, it's been about. I think I'm coming up on my 3rd year technically, and it's been like a marathon nonstop, pretty much. I mean, the pandemic hit, and it was like everyone was shuttered in their own homes, and once people were just like, hey, we need people with remote setups, I was like, raising my hand, like, hello, hi, I would love to. And then the push for diversity from the George Floyd protests, I mean, really kind of pushed that even further. Realizing that there was so many voices out there that we just weren't hearing, and kind of being able to ride that wave really helped me in a lot of ways. From such a, I mean, like, literally, it's sad to think about, like, the only reason why I have a career, not the only reason, give myself more credit,
please.
but one of the main reasons I have a career is because tragedy after tragedy after tragedy happened to make it happen. But I mean, it's part of the human condition to see something terrible and then say, you know what, not that ever again. We need to improve from this point forward.
The best thing to learn from
Yeah.
tragedy is to how to grow from it rather than kind of sulk in it.
Yeah, man. Whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and it's just the amount of people that have come out from that renaissance is insane. Like, I'm very lucky to be among them. I consider myself very lucky to be among them because there are so many amazing, talented people out there, and now amazingly talented, versatile people of color. It's fucking awesome. Like, it's the best it's ever been as far as I'm concerned. I just want to see more of it. I just want to see more and more and more and more of it. I never get tired of it.
Love to hear it. 1 second. Zoom's giving me issues. All right. Sorry about that.
No worries.
I said I was running out of time. I don't use Zoom often, so I don't know what that was about.
Time for Zoom?
Yeah, I think it's like you only have a certain amount of time. Maybe it might be a recording thing. I might be recording. Whatever. Cross that bridge when we come to it. Anyway.
Yeah, we can always reconnect. It's no big deal.
Yeah. So speaking of Troy Baker, do you listen to Play Watch Listen?
I have not. Is that a podcast of his?
Yeah. Well, it's one he's on. He's on it with I don't know if you know who Alana Pierce is. Mike.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Mike Bithell, who is a video game director, and a guy named Austin Wintry who composes mostly video games. Yeah, it's the 4 of them. I think a compliment I have for them is it's a very real podcast. Like, if you're a fan of Troy Baker, you will know Troy Baker after listening to that podcast because they're just 4 friends who they talk about video games, but often go out into random tangents. And Troy does his best
check it out.
to be philosophical and everything. Yes, especially when you talk about voice acting, I think it's really interesting. So yeah, you can check that out.
Yeah, man. Thanks for the recommendation.
Yeah, no problem. So I saw one of your roles that you've talked about recently is your role in WK23.
Yeah, WWE 2K23.
So I'll ask about that in a second, but can you explain wrestling to me?
Wrestling. Oh man. Wrestling is one of my favorite art forms out there. I think if you're a performer in any sense, it's like a culmination of so many amazing things. There's improv, there's comedy, there's stunt work, there's clown work, there's, you get to be an action star for certain bits. You get to monologue. You get to go on and have soliloquies. I mean, it's one of the most dramatic forms of television I think that exists and still exists and thrives to this day. And there's so much of it that's just enjoyable. I mean, there's the live aspect, obviously, which, like, if you've never been to a wrestling match at all, it doesn't matter if you're sitting like right up in front of the ring, or if you're up in the nosebleeds, which is where I was for SmackDown in Vegas. It is as electric there as it is anywhere else, because it's so campy, it's so fun, I mean, I watched Dominic Mysterio tell his mom to shut up live and then get punched by his dad. We don't even know if they're like biologically related. But it was one of the funny, I was just like, "Oh, wow, this is wild." And it gets a lot of bad rap, I think, cuz a lot of people don't understand what kind of goes into it. I know, like, the biggest thing when I was a kid was like, oh, it's all fake, that's all bogus, and it's just like, yeah, well, you know, Hulk Hogan's fused spine isn't fake. You know what I mean? Like, the amount of metal in these guys' bodies holding them together after these shows isn't fake.
Yeah, the hits certainly aren't fake, unfortunately, sometimes.
Yeah, dude, sometimes they get really, really injured, because there's some stuff, especially in a live show, they rehearse these things to death, to over and over and over again, and making sure they've nailed the choreography and their beats to make sure that it's as safe as possible. Sometimes you just get hurt, and it can be really, really dangerous. So I have a huge amount of respect for professional wrestlers and people that work in that medium, because it is you have to be so many things, and you have to be good at so many things. Like, you can't, like, one of my favorite people, Austin Creed, he is easily, him and his group, like, they are some of the funniest, well-acted, and athletic people I've ever seen in my life. I mean, this dude's doing flips in the ring before he clotheslines people, like, and then he goes and delivers one of the funniest one-liners I've ever heard, and has me holding my rib cage, because that's the level of talent that's expected of you when you work in that realm. And so, I mean, if you're into theater, if you're into soap operas, if you're into rom-coms or sitcoms, like, you should really try watching wrestling, because it's just TV, it's just art. It's anything else that we get to do from any other medium. It's just a different type of job that an actor can do if they don't want to be Daniel Day-Lewis on screen, you know, and be Abraham Lincoln in a bunch of makeup. It's so cool. And WWE 2K23 was such a full circle moment for me, because as a kid, like, I loved wrestling, and I kind of grew out of it because, you know, the people you love kind of move out of it with you as you get older. You know, for me, it was like The Undertaker, Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, who's still there, the Hardy brothers who also left. Like, those were my guys. And then, you know, as I got older, the crowd changed, and now they've got a bunch of new talent in there who's doing really interesting, really cool things. And I'm just kind of getting reintroduced to it through my work on this game. And it's just as cool and funny as I remember it being. And if anything, it's only improved significantly as they've kind of really nailed down what they want to do with the medium. So it's awesome to be a part of that story in any capacity. So I'm so glad to be the Lock in WWE 2K23. It's a huge, huge dream of mine that I get to fulfill without breaking any bones. Yeah, that's cool.
You get to have best of both worlds, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. Just give me my belt real quick, and I'll just be a wrestler, and it'll be cool. It'll be great.
Yeah, wrestling's something that I've never got into personally, but a bunch of my friends are into it, and a bunch of people I watch are into it. I think it's something like you might have to grow up with it, and it's just something I kind of missed a train on, because I can get like the athleticism and the acting now, but it's nothing really. I mean, I'm sure if I was at an event, I'll be dead ass into it, just because.
Oh, of course,
like
a couple drinks into you for sure.
Oh yeah, and like it's not as like I hear crazy as it was in the 90s, where you're right, they were just like smacking each other with chairs and like doing all kinds of ungodly things to each other for the sake of Ed McMahon. But
oh god.
So you say that's maybe one of your favorite roles you've gotten into?
I mean, it's been one of my most in-depth roles. I mean, like, the Lock, the character that I play in WWE 2K23, he's the create character. So when you go in and you create your own wrestler, and you're like, let me work my way through the rungs of WWE, you know, legendary status. You know, I'm the male voice that you hear, and that's my performance and my facial capture kind of animating your character through this story. And I mean, I've never really been asked to do something like that, at least not yet in my career, besides this, where it's like, hey, you're driving this whole narrative from beginning to end, it was my first, lead in a video game to date, and it just feels kind of. I just feel incredibly lucky to be trusted with that role and be trusted with the weight of that franchise kind of resting on my shoulders. Like, hey, they've got one or two voices to pick from in this create a character thing. If yours sucks, everyone's gonna know it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so for the reviews to be coming back generally positive and people talking about my voice and saying that they love how I played this character, that's just a huge dream come true of mine. I'm so glad that people are enjoying it. I'm so glad that I could be of service to the fans of this franchise as well as 2K and them lending their trust in me.
Oh shit.
The Zoom ended.
Yeah, sorry about that. Zoom kicked us out. That's what happens when you take too long, apparently. Like, y'all freeloaders, get the fuck out of here. Because I checked how much it was. It would be like $150. I'm like, no.
Yeah,
That's why I like
worth
Discord.
Right. I feel you.
But yeah.
I've started my recording back up, so we're good to go.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry I cut you off. You're really deep in the trenches. I'm like, I saw a timer. I'm like, what's it gonna do when it counts down? I guess it just does that.
No, man, you didn't cut me off. Zoom cut me off. You're all good.
Yeah, nothing in life is free, apparently.
Yeah, but no, I mean, the Lock he's very near and dear to my heart, and I'm so glad I got to play that role. I mean, it's hard to pick a favorite among all the things I've done, because I'm so in love with all the work that I've gotten to do and so in love with all the characters that I've gotten to play that it's like choosing between, I mean, it's like, what is it? Kill your darlings. It's like choosing between your children. It's so hard to do, but I'm incredibly fortunate to be trusted with that role. And I'm very happy that people are enjoying it.
Who's your favorite wrestler? Or is that like sacrilege? Is that like another kill your darlings thing to say? It's like picking your kids.
Oh man. I mean, it's hard. It's hard, but honestly, the first one that came to my mind was Undertaker. I mean,
okay, he's one I hear a lot.
And Stone Cold Steve Austin, though. But I mean,
another one I hear a lot.
I mean, I think it has to be Undertaker. Mankind is really good too, though. Okay,
just slamming all of them.
Yeah, man, I think it has to be Undertaker because like his whole, I mean, the lore of the character is so deep. I feel like when he came out, when he like debuted. Like it was such an insane character that like, because it was always gimmicky and always a little, you know what I mean? Everyone had their thing, but like the Undertaker brought such a gravity to everything that he did after a certain point. Like when he first showed up, it was just like, oh, I got the dead man Kane, and he would walk out with his manager who looked like he was also deceased. and it was very Tim Burton-y and goofy, and then as it kind of moved on and evolved, it became such a darker, more grounded character, and then his relationship with his brother Kane later on kind of took it to this next level where it was just like, man, these two, especially like, I think the moment, like the biggest moment for me as a wrestling fan as a kid was like the moment when Kane and Undertaker first like square off against each other, and it's these two fucking mammoths of human beings. I mean, just like two 6-foot-tall, 300-pound dudes squaring off against each other. One of them's in a fucking all-black trench coat. The other one's in like this outfit that looks like he crawled out of hell from. I mean, I was like, yeah, I'm here for this. Whatever happens next, I'm here for it. I don't care if they kiss, if they fight, I'm here for it. Let's go. And
I would like to see them kiss. That's maybe number one on the list.
Yeah, I mean they're brothers, but like maybe just on the cheeks.
But are they really brothers or are they actors?
No, they're not. They're just actors. but man,
listen, ratings are ratings.
Ratings are ratings, right? Especially with wrestling. I mean, wrestling is a show where you'd see a brother.
And McMahon, I think, would make that happen if you asked him.
Oh yeah. If there was enough pay-per-view sales on the line. But yeah, that was
gonna kiss. Pay for it now.
But yeah, that was. I mean, that was a huge character for me, and I think he set the stage for a lot of what I loved about wrestling. So he's got to be my favorite for sure.
So there are character arcs in wrestling.
Oh yeah, buddy.
Oh.
And they go deep. I mean, these like they change from so much from when they first debuted to kind of when you last see them. I mean, it's funny, like you see like John Cena, everyone does the like hand thing. You can't see me. But they don't understand that like his character in WWE had to go through all these arcs to kind of get to be the greatest of who he is. You know what I mean?
They don't get how deep he is.
Exactly. Yeah. Like you kind of lose sight of that. You don't realize how deep the lore can really get. And that's what I'm talking about is like when I say it's art is it's almost on the same level as like Greek mythology in some way, where it's just like, you're reading about Sisyphus rolling the rock up the hill, or you're learning about Perseus going on his journey, and it's very similar story structures. At the end of the day, right, when you talk about acting or storytelling or directing or filmmaking, cartoons, video games, it comes from the act of storytelling, and those first stories we heard that were passed around campfire to campfire, from small village to small town to big city, it's all from that that first stuff that we ever came across, which is, we talk about Greek mythology, we talk about David versus Goliath, like that is the hero's journey in and of itself, and that's what we all kind of love. That's why like I get kind of annoyed when people are like, oh man, there's so much stuff that's just like derivative of each other. I'm just like, everything's derivative of something.
Exactly.
There's no original anything anymore. Like, yeah, I get
literally no.
Like, I get that you're upset that there's like 7 isekai anime out there today. This
more than
one
that.
season.
Come on.
Well, I'm talking about this is just the season.
Still more than that.
True. And I get it. Like, those oversaturation is a problem at times. But at the same time, if all 7 of those shows cater to 50 different people individually,
true,
then they've done their job. You know what I mean? They've reached their audience, whoever it is. And I'd love to know, because these damn isekais keep getting
yeah. There's Konosuba, and that's it. I'm pretty sure.
Right. Real Life, I think, is the other one. Or ReZero, shit. I think Real Life is another one too, though. But anyway, you know what I mean? And I have my own garbage isekais that I love and hold very near and dear to my heart. But like, when people say like, oh, this is just derivative of this, and this is just derivative of this, and it's all copy paste, and it's like, I get that argument, but everything is. Everything is.
I keep saying that. Nothing is ever original. Not even the first story ever created, because all we have is our surroundings and our environments, our perceptions of that. The first story of like a man cuts down a tree. People know what a tree is. People know how cutting it down is. You can't think of a whole new alien concept, at least here on Earth,
to approach that story. Yeah,
exactly. It's like thinking of a new color. Like, no, we only have the spectrum and like differences in that spectrum. See, that's what I like about you wrestling fans, because on the outside, wrestling just looks like some dudes hitting each other, and that may or may not be fake. But you guys equate it to like Greek tragedy. And you have so much characters involved. Because my favorite is Randy Savage, rest in peace, because he was in Spider-Man. That's it.
That's it.
He was in Spider-Man.
Come on, Macho
Hulk
Man,
Hogan.
Randy
Yeah,
Savage.
Hulk Hogan was not in Spider-Man.
Yeah, rest in peace, Randy. Oh man, yeah, man. I mean, it's like people dong on it, but it's some of the most memorable characters we've ever seen, in TV or otherwise, come from wrestling, and it's a testament to how amazing that medium is, man. It deserves all of its flowers, 100%.
You see some wrestlers become actors, but I don't think there's any that have done voice acting. Maybe I think Randy Savage has done voice acting for something.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson has done voice acting. He was in Super Pets. He played Krypto.
Like, I don't really consider Dwayne a lot of things. Yeah. I think people barely consider Dwayne a wrestler anymore.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, me personally, I love Dwayne The Rock Johnson. I love his story. I love where he came from and how he evolved as a performer.
Love what he's cooking.
Yeah, I definitely don't think he's very much a wrestler anymore. I think he occasionally goes back every now and again to like do like a fun little promo thing. But I mean, he's an incredibly versatile performer. Like, I've seen him, and I mean, he doesn't get a lot. He doesn't get a lot to do that's different, is the thing. But I mean,
versatile is a word to describe The Rock.
when you weigh like, how much does he would probably weigh? Like 400 pounds of solid muscle, and you look like that? Like, you're probably not going to get hired to, like, play the Jack Black character or, like, you know what I mean? So he's also not given a lot to do, but I think so he plays a lot of the same character. But I think in everything that I've seen him in, I've never gone, oh, that was bad, you know? And so I give him some credit, you know? I haven't watched Super Pets, but I've heard that he's okay.
I would agree for you if not for Cena, because I think Cena is the kind of honestly one of the best wrestlers turned actor in my opinion. Even though he's not as like prolific as The Rock in terms of like how much stuff he's been in.
Yeah,
just the stuff he has been in, I've seen. Like I'm a big fan of, because honestly, I don't think I like any movies The Rock have been in. I don't think I can think of one. I like a lot of stuff John Cena has been in.
I feel you. I mean, Dave Bautista, too. Like, he's also a very skilled actor.
See, Batista's so good, I forgot he was a wrestler.
Right, yeah. Everyone does. But, I mean, like, him as Drax and some of the other stuff he's getting to do now.
Yeah, so now Rock has no excuse, because Dave Bautista is, like, I don't think he's bigger than The Rock, but they're on par.
Right.
And he's done, like, Glass Onion and stuff. So I don't think there's any excuse for Dwayne Johnson not to...
Totally.
Pick it up. But also he took Batista took acting classes, so he's like serious about that. And Drax,
you can tell.
Yeah, and Drax, I think he's underrated in terms of acting ability, because I think it'd be hard for anyone to perform as Drax.
Right, and do it earnestly the way he does.
Exactly, and not come off as goofy or something. Because I don't think the Rock could pull off Drax at all.
I think you're right.
Like he can barely pull off Black Adam.
I concede.
That was made for him.
I concede that The Rock is maybe. I just like Dwayne, man. I love him. I don't know.
Listen,
I want to shake his big giant hand.
This podcast is made for two things: Matthew Mercer worship and Dwayne The Rock slander. I apologize if you weren't given that beforehand.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So, I think you said you gotta go soon, so I don't want to spend too much more time with you.
I mean, we got disconnected, so I'm cool to give you another, like, 15 minutes. I mean, we can go until, like, 4:10, if anything. But if you're cool, we can end it here, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I just kind of, had maybe one last question. Let me look here. So you talked about how some people in your circle are kind of, like, pining for that lead role or that big voice role. Mm-hmm. So honestly, what does success look like to you in terms of your career and everything? Because you said you've done a lot of stuff you're appreciative of, but do you have any, like, maybe further goals that maybe you're not dead set on, but you would like to happen? Or if not, just what does success look like for you in general? I know it's a big question for the last few minutes we got here.
No, yeah, man. I mean, it's honestly 50 more years of this. Like, that's being able to continue doing it. That's success, because it doesn't matter. Like, man, I think it was Alfred Molina who said this, and he's one of my favorite actors. He played Doc Ock, and he's played a million other amazing characters, and it's that the size of the role really is inconsequential and unimportant. Like, I'm not looking to be the next Troy Baker. I'm not looking to be the next Nolan North or the next, Johnny Young Bosch or any of that nonsense. Like, I want to be the next Luis Bermudez. I want to be, I want to be me, but I want to occupy the same space as all of those other giants. So if I can, spend the rest of my life doing this job that I love and would honestly do for free, but they keep paying me. So if I can keep doing this forever, until my sunset years, when it's time for me to shuffle off this mortal coil, that to me is success. Because, I mean, there's a million things I'd love to do. You know what I mean? I'd love to be a Ninja Turtle. I'd love to be Jason Todd. I'd love to be Batman. Fuck it. You know what I mean? Like,
there's a theme developing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Red. Yeah.
Red and angry.
100%. I'd love to be and do so much, but none of that is up to me. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, when I go in, I mean, I audition for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of roles a year. You know what I mean? Last year, I think I auditioned for over 1,000 roles. I booked like 20 times.
Oh my god.
Yeah, man. And I put in the work.
I know it takes a lot. I know it takes a lot of auditioning to really get anything.
And so, you know, and if you're listening, you know, go you listen to that 1,000 auditions and then go to my IMDb and see what's there, or go on my Twitter profile and see what I'm announcing. And you'll understand the metrics of what I'm looking at. You know, I submit 1,000 auditions, I might book 10, I might book 5. And that's just the reality of this business. And you know what I mean? Like, it's not, so much of it isn't up to me and isn't even about me. So much of it, when I go in, the amount of times I've heard from people that I've worked with or like been in connection with tangentially, like, hey, like, we got your audition, it was so good. Like, you do amazing work, but like, unfortunately, like, you sound too similar to this guy we have on the project already, or you sound a little bit too old for this character, but it was amazing, we want to have you for another character, or whatever it may be. You know what I mean? There's so much going into these projects, there's so much care and love being put in, because at the end of the day, like, what we have to understand too is that this business is about making money, and you know, for the corporates and the suits, that's all they really care about. But for the people that are hired to do this job, we are doing our damnedest from beginning to end to just make this as good as possible for the audience, because that's who we care about, and that's what we care about. We don't care about bringing people to a theater and selling seats. We want people to be entertained. We want them to have a new favorite thing. If we're working on something that's a legacy, you know, for us, where it's like, oh man, I'm in WWE 2K23. I gotta show up for the WWE fans. I have to, because those are my people. You know what I mean? So being able to do that for the rest of my life, just being able to be of service and being able to show up for my people, that's all I want out of my career. If I can do that for the rest of my life, I made it. You know what I mean? And as far as I'm concerned, the fact that I'm doing anything at all, the fact that I'm doing this at all, sitting here talking to you, Jared, like, I've made it, man. I've done what I sought out to do, and I'm very, very grateful and happy to be here.
Appreciate the compliment of being on Baby Got Booth means you make it. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. No, yeah. 100%.
That'll put me in a map. You've been sounding very Troy Baker right there.
Did I? Okay,
I'm pretty sure it's something I've heard Troy Baker say a lot on the podcast I mentioned. So yeah, definitely check that out. I think you'll really like it. Well, thank you so much for coming on too. I again really appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me, man. It was a lot of fun. Thanks for bringing me on, and thanks for caring about what I do. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Care about what everyone does, but now especially you.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you next time.